I'm Dr. John Gartner.
And I'm Dr. Harry Segal.
And welcome to another session of Shrinking Trump.
Our show has been on for more than 3 months. And what we've been wanting to do as two clinical psychologists is to educate the public about the mental illnesses of Donald Trump. And although I'm saying that so definitively, these are things that we've observed for years now, and other clinicians have observed. And this involves primarily, or maybe most notably, his severe narcissism, what we call malignant narcissism, which includes sociopathy and compulsive lying and lack of empathy for others. But also what John has been noticing, and I've been noticing, are these early signs of dementia where Trump loses his place linguistically, where he becomes disorganized in his thinking, and even at times becomes almost concrete and overly simple. Because when you're starting to have problems cognitively, often what you do is you reach for things that are like formulas that stand for more complex thinking but aren't. So we've been noticing that and trying to educate the public, most importantly, but also the media and the political class. John?
So this week in Trump, I label this "The Devil Broke Down in Georgia," because he really did have a meltdown in Georgia. Now, Harry, you and I were psychoanalytically trained in the early part of our careers. And, we know what a genius Freud really was. But, they can't all be home runs. Not all of his ideas are as accepted today as they once were. For example, one of his ideas that just really we don't accept today, just didn't make it, is that his theory that girls, when they're young children, when they first see a boy having a penis, they feel a feeling of envy because his genitals are bigger than hers. She suffers from penis envy. It's one of those policies, which is, well, if you're feeling offended right now, I'm with you. It is actually an offensive idea, and it's also incorrect. But it's something that if you were a psychoanalyst 20 years ago, you had to defend as part of the orthodoxy of Freudianism. So
if you're in a very conservative group of psychoanalysts, it's really been rejected for more like 70 years. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's been rejected for a long time. But you know what? What we've discovered is there is a male counterpart. If a man sees a woman with a bigger crowd size than his, he develops crowd size envy. It's a real condition, and it can drive someone insane. So that's what we're going to be talking about first. Now, for those of you who are listening, this next part isn't going to make a lot of sense because it's visual. But what we're going to do is show you two actual very brief pieces of tape that show you. The first one shows you the exact same arena. Because remember, Kamala had a rally in the same space 1 week previous. So it's a very head-on-head comparison. So the first video shows their rallies. What'd you say? So to speak.
I said so to speak.
So this shows you them in comparison, but then the second video shows you what Trump is seeing from the stage. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about the New York Times article. What's rattling Trump? The size of Harris's crowds. So this is interesting. It's in the New York Times that this is what's really making him nuts. Anyway, now can we see the video of the crowd?
Will come to America when we host the Los Angeles Olympics. And by the way, which I was president, we happened to get it. I was the president. I also got you a thing called the World Cup, which is coming very soon.
And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate.
I think we didn't quite see the last part there, but what he's looking at from the stage, it's the stadium, to be honest, it's not empty. It would be like maybe 75%, 80% full. If you go to a ball game, that's about what you normally see, and they still consider it a full house. But he can't stand the fact that she had so much more. And what he's looking at from his position happens to be a giant empty upper deck. I guess they just didn't fill in that last upper deck because they didn't have need for it, but it's what he's visually looking at. Okay. So we actually have 3 pieces of tape from Georgia where he cannot stop lying about the crowd size issue. Can we see the first one, Chip?
Crazy Kamala, ultra left, you know that. She was here a week ago, lots of empty seats. But the crowd she got was because she had entertainers. And it all started to unfold when they started to leave about 10 minutes into the speech. It was very boring. I don't need entertainers. I filled the stadium because I'm making America great again. That's our entertainment. That's our entertainment, making America great again. And I have to tell you, we have thousands of people outside, and the state was terrific, but the fire marshal, I will say, could not have been better. Thank you to the fire marshal. But the school administration stopped us from getting another 500, 600, even 1,000 people in.
So he doesn't need entertainment. Now that's entertainment. See, part of actually what is scaring him, and Harry, you brought this up last week, is he's sensing Kamala's celebrity. The fact that she had all these hip musical acts, that warmed up the crowd, no question about it. It created this convivial atmosphere. Everyone's dancing. You know, you saw that in the first video that we saw, how excited the people were. And no, they didn't leave bored when the band stopped playing. That's just a lie. But it actually shows how scared he is of her celebrity, you know, that she's brat, that musical stars want to perform with her. And all he had was some, smoke bombs that went off at the beginning of his rally.
Well, and let me just add something, which I've said before, but I want to repeat it, which is part of being narcissistically fragile. Narcissism means your sense of self, and how cohesive is that sense of self. If you're narcissistically fragile, it means you're afraid of being destroyed at any moment. Anything can cause it. Someone saying they hate you, someone voting, public voting you out of office, that kind of thing. And that means that Trump has no long game. Whenever something is bothering him, he has to strike back right away, even when it's not in his interest to do so.
Correct.
So if he's feeling that Kamala suddenly has the momentum and their celebrity, he's going to attack it, even if it's not in his interest. And that's what we're seeing.
So one thing that, of course, Trump always does is lie and blame others. He decides, you see this at the beginning of the end of the tape we were just listening to, that the culprit is Georgia State University. Okay. That they're the ones, these intellectual university types. They're in cahoots to keep his followers from coming in. There are thousands of people, Harry, thousands lined up outside the Georgia State Arena, and they would not let them in, he says. Although nobody was able to locate those thousands of people. Later, he said that they had moved them away from the arena. Can
I remind you that when Hillary won 3 million more votes than he did in the popular vote, he said it was caused by illegal immigrants who were brought in to vote. 3 million.
Right.
We've seen this a million times. It's incredible how it hasn't gotten old for the public. Like, why don't they see this?
Right. So instantaneously, we have a new conspiracy theory.
Of course.
Georgia State intellectuals are out to get him.
But the school administration stopped us from getting another 500, 600, even 1,000 people in. Thousands of people were told no, and that was okay, but we could have fit another 600 people. So I don't know anything about the school. But they could have allowed more people. You got people standing outside. Look at all the people outside. They could have come in. So we're not happy. Hello out there. And then they actually pushed the people very far away from the building where we have beautiful cameras set up for the overflow crowds, the administration of the school. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be sending anybody to the school. I'm not happy about it. If they're going to stand in the way of admitting people to our rally, just imagine what they're going to do on Election Day. We're not going to let that happen.
Can I just say, really, just very clearly, how incredibly sick this is?
Please.
It's so sick that someone would stand up there, make up something out of whole cloth, and say it, and then whip the crowd, and then connect it to an earlier lie, which is that he won the 2020 election.
Right.
It's so sick, and yet look at how it works on that crowd.
Right. It does. It does. And he comes back to it a third time later in the speech.
School people allow, there's some seats right up there. They could let him come in. I don't know what you're doing. Let the people come in. They're standing outside, thousands of them. Let them come in. It's obviously, Marjorie, a very liberal school, I guess, right? I'm not happy with the school. Let them come in. They're standing. It's 95 degrees out. Let them come in. There's some seats. And they got thousands of people. They won't let them in. A Harris presidency. You know why? Because they don't want to show that we're successful. That's all it is. They don't want to show. She has to go get entertainers. They start leaving as soon as she opens her mouth.
Let the people in! Let the people in! It's like Passover. Let my people in. Except they don't exist. They aren't there. They're imaginary.
Unbelievably. It's just extraordinary. I can't stand it.
Right. Now, what you said, Harry, about how when he's provoked, right, he can't help himself, right, but react. Yeah. And our guest 2 weeks ago, George Conway, said, I know that for a fact, and I'm going to exploit that to intentionally, diabolically drive the man insane. It's a conscious attempt to gaslight him into insanity so that he will fight back in a wild and kind of erratic way and essentially undo himself. And actually, this is starting to happen, according to some people. There was a recent article I didn't. Our producer, Pritchip, we give him so much to do. I didn't want to give him one more photo, but it was an article, I think, in The Guardian or The Independent, saying that Trump is having a nervous breakdown in public because of Harris's rise.
And so I'm going to correct you just for the audience's sake, which is
yes, sure, yeah.
What George is doing is not driving him crazy. It's just getting him to reveal his impulsivity and his reactivity. He does it all the time anyway. But if George can provoke him, then he'll do it more obviously. But it's not making him crazy. He's already very disturbed.
Right. I accept that correction. And so if you wanted to say disturb him more, one thing you might tease him about is his measly, pathetic little crowd size. Can we see that, Chip? the anti-psychopath tape.
Donald Trump is rattled.
Donald Trump's speech in Atlanta, Georgia was a total disaster.
He's upset.
There was an entire section that was fairly empty. Donald Trump blamed the school.
School administration stopped us from getting another 500, 600, even 1,000 people in.
He's mad.
Kamala, she was here a week ago, lots of empty seats.
Not enough people want to go to his rallies anymore. They want to go to Kamala Harris's. Enjoy the rallies while they last, Donald, because pretty soon you're not going to have any.
Learn more at psychopac.org. Anti-Psychopath PAC Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Oh, sorry. I can't help it when I see a Kamala rally. Sorry. Back to the show. By the way, your dollars at work, folks, if you're contributing to the Anti-Psychopath Political Action Committee, your dollars are going to be spent beaming that ad into Bedminster, New Jersey and Palm Beach, Florida, on if he does what he did last time, probably the Fox News channel, ESPN, and the Golf channel. So just imagine how Trump's going to react when he sees them apples. We're looking forward to it. All right, so there's a lot more to unpack from Trump's speech in Georgia. One is, I'm calling this the paraphasia of the week, because every week Donald Trump has still got dementia, and every week he has to garble words and use non-English words in the place of actual words. So here's two quick ones taped together.
Together we will stop Kamala Harris's nation-wrecking. I'll tell you what, when you see what, and she said, violent mobs, let the violent mobs keep going.
Yeah, nation-wrecking, I think, what'd you say? Violent mob. Exactly. And nation-wrecking, I think that's some kind of perversion. I'm not sure, but... Anyway, so, just pointing it out that he can't go a week without a paraphasia. And, nope, right? And next, it's our treason of the week. This is Trump congratulating Vladimir Putin.
No, it's terrible. By the way, I'd like to congratulate Vladimir Putin for having made yet another great deal. Did you see the deal we made? Now, look, we want to get people in. We got 59 hostages. I never paid anything. They released some of the greatest killers anywhere in the world, some of the most evil killers they got, and we got our people back. But, boy, we make some horrible, horrible deals, and it's nice to say we got them back, but does that set a bad precedent, Bert, right? Does that set a bad precedent, Bert? Harris has the...
So it's interesting how he destroys it. First of all, he wants to congratulate Vladimir Putin because, as I say every week, he works for Vladimir Putin. He's not just a Russian asset. That's a nice name for a Russian agent. And I believe that if he weren't a Russian agent, he's sure doing a great job of imitating one. But the other thing is he can't stand the fact that Biden got the hostages home, because that's a sign of success, right? That was the whole thing that Reagan kind of screwed Carter with, right? Is that he actually had some secret negotiations to not let him bring the hostages home before Election Day. And then he immediately brought the hostages home, right? So he knows that it's actually political capital for the Democrats to have brought the hostages home. So instead he has to turn it upside down and say it was a terrible deal. It was a terrible deal. They let the worst killers out. I would never make that deal. Well, first of all, I also find that a little bit offensive on a personal level, because one of the hostages was actually a personal friend of my daughter's, the Wall Street Journal writer. I'm going to mispronounce his name, actually.
Evan Gershkovich.
Evan Gershkovich. So I've really been watching his case, not daily, but really knowing that someone that, is a contemporary of my child's is suffering in prison, for no reason. So I really don't care which killers they let go for his freedom. I'm assuming that anyone Russian in our jail is a killer, but they're going back to Russia.
Well, I think more importantly, he was implying that Biden paid money to let them out. He paid nothing. He negotiated with 7 different countries, and also Trump had prisoner swaps during his administration. The whole thing is made up out of whole cloth. I don't know, John, if I agree with you that he's actively a Russian agent, but what I will say though is he admires Putin. So yes, it was sarcastic. Congratulations, Putin. You pulled a fast one over sleepy dumb Joe. Yeah. But implicit is I'm attracted to, I'm frightened by, I want to submit to, I want to murder this big guy. That's what I think it's about. It's that combination of rage and fear and submission and lust. It's all wrapped up into one thing. You can hear it anytime. And when you watched him and Putin together, you couldn't miss it. It's like Putin had a leash on him.
Well, I'm saying it's not like that. Sorry, laughing my own jokes again, but I cracked myself up. So now we have the projections of the week, because it's always the same story, folks. So, if we're going to keep track of it, it's just the same. This is when you're a psychologist, things are repetitive. People just kind of demonstrate the same pathology, the same patterns over and over again. So that's what a session of Shrinking Trump is like. So several projections of the week. The first, he accuses Kamala of being low IQ.
And she happens to be really a low IQ individual. She really does. She has a very low IQ. We don't need a low IQ. President Xi of China said, oh, good, we have another one, a low IQ individual. They love dealing with low IQ. They love dealing with low IQ people, and they got them here, I'll tell you. We got them all.
Doesn't he sound high IQ?
No, and in fact, we're arguing that he's in cognitive decline.
Well,
And you notice after that phonemic paraphasia, he's now learning how to recover. He'll kind of jerk himself awake and then go to another word.
Yeah,
struggling.
Well, I think, remember, he always attacks other people about the things that he's weak on. So in other words, it shows that he knows he's cognitively deficient. He knows that she's smarter than he is. So he has to turn it around and say she's low IQ in the way he said, we don't need low IQ. That's not even exactly a grammatical sentence. So it's funny that he's saying we don't need low IQ and demonstrating a low IQ while he says it. All right. And then here's the next one. She's afraid to debate. She's afraid.
But they were very fair, actually, CNN, shockingly, honestly. They were very fair. They want to do another one. We're doing one with Fox if she shows up. I don't think she's going to show up. She can't talk. She can read a teleprompter. I'd give her about a 6 on a scale of 10, 6. For talking, I'd give her less than a 1. We need people that can talk.
And by the way, there's also a racist element to this too. I should have pointed out, it's a dog will say, "Oh, someone black is low IQ." That also is the other aspect of it, right? But here, obviously, he's the one who's reneging on the debate, and he's making it sound like she's afraid to debate. We'll see if she shows up. And then finally, he accuses the Democrats of all things, brainwashing. If only we could.
They used the word brainwash. Did you ever hear the word brainwash? Mitt Romney's father used that word. It wasn't good when he used that word. It destroyed his career. But they were brainwashed. Some people they hear it over and over again, how bad they were, and they say how great a job they did. They did great. They did great. They say it again and again, and all of a sudden people, and don't forget, it's not their main thing. They're accountants, they're lawyers, they're taxi drivers, they're carpenters, they're electricians. They hear it over and over again. All of a sudden they say, she was really great on the border, wasn't she? No, she was a disaster.
So, of course, again, he's talking about what he does, right? Was the brainwashing, repeating the same lie over and over again. So it's funny that he's accusing, well, it's predictable that he's accusing the Democrats of that.
Exactly. I mean, this is his only technique. It's very powerful
technique. Yeah.
But he does
I wish the Democrats would learn it. I wish the Democrats would learn the power from, well, they are now.
They are. Right. They are learning it.
Right. Weird, right? Weird power.
We're not going back.
And we're not going back. Yeah. Finally, we're getting with the program. All right. Well, because he's repetitive, now we need to hear our silly conspiracy theory of the week. And we've already heard some, but Chip, can we hear this mashup of his silly conspiracy theories?
I said, well, we got millions of more votes, as you know that too, but we're not going to let that happen again. Ready? The 2 words are Merry Christmas. She doesn't want anybody saying Merry Christmas. Now she's denying it, and then they found the tape last night. She's such a liar. She denies all this stuff. She wants the government to stop people from eating red meat. She wants to get rid of your cows. No more cows.
No more cows. No more cows. And wait, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. You can't stop me.
The war on Christmas was developed by Fox anchors in the 90s. I mean, really? He's going back to that?
Well, apparently the war is raging. It has not been settled.
But remember, the Little League can't play anymore because there's migrant workers sleeping in every baseball field. He'll say anything.
It's bad enough that you can't say Merry Christmas anymore. Now you can't even eat meat on Christmas because they took away all the cows.
And the gas engines too. They'll all be gone as well.
Right. Well, you'd be electrocuted. That's how it happens.
Well, it's better than being eaten by a shark.
Good point. All right. Well, so this is a laugh, but here's something that's not a laugh. Okay. Which is, after the assassination attempt, there was this general feeling that we needed to, quote, lower the temperature in our political discourse. And we predicted that would be impossible for Trump. And of course, we were correct. He was able to do it for about not even 30 seconds, about 10 seconds for like part of his speech at the convention that they rewrote, that he read from the teleprompter. But listen to how they're spinning the assassination attempt and how it's actually going to be encouraging stochastic terrorism. Stochastic terrorism is when you raise the level of rhetoric to the point where a random disturbed person will act on it. So let's hear Trump describing the assassination attempt.
No, it's not democracy. Remember the words they use? They are a threat to democracy. They've been saying that about me for 7 years. I think I got shot because of that, okay? People said, he's a threat to democracy. No, I'm the one that is saving democracy. It's true. They're a threat. Thank you.
So you follow that logic. He got shot because they, the Democrats, said he was a threat to democracy. But they're the threats to democracy, parentheses, and so they're the ones who should be shot.
Oh,
that's what he's saying. And just in case you thought it was, not a coordinated message, let's hear what Vance has to say about the assassination.
So they tried to impeach him. They failed at that, so they tried to put him in prison. They even tried to kill him.
See that logic? They tried to impeach him.
Right. No, I mean, it should be against the law to say stuff like that. It's like yelling fire in a crowded movie theater. That is despicable.
Yeah, it really is. And absolutely despicable. And more than just despicable, really, really dangerous, because let's see the next picture. A Virginia man has been arrested for allegedly threatening to kill Kamala Harris. Cause and effect. Okay. So they are encouraging people to violently attack our Democratic leaders. And so this is a real threat. This is one of the ways things could really go wrong between now and Election Day.
Well, this is a callback to 2016 when he said that if he lost, there was always the Second Amendment solution. Remember
That's
that?
Right. I do.
He's been doing this for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. In this next sequence, I'm going to ask the audience's patience for a moment, because it's a kind of a long clip. I've actually put 4 clips together, linking together all of his anti-immigrant statements during this Georgia rally. And I mention this every week. I know that it's repetitive. I'm not adding any new information here, but I need to, if we're alleging that Trump really is the American Hitler, that he has malignant narcissism, that he is that same type of leader, then I feel obligated as a Jew. We're told, never forget, never again. Well, if it's happening again, then you need to say something, okay? And immigrants are the new Jews in this Fourth Reich if they were to take power. Just listen to the dehumanizing rhetoric he has around immigrants.
These are the worst people anywhere in the world coming into our country. They're coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. There's nothing good about it. There's nothing can be made of it. And they're actually trying to get them to sign up and vote. They don't even speak the language. They don't even know where the hell they are. They want them to sign up and vote. You know why? But I never really talked about the third reason because it's so sinister. But they want to sign these people up to vote. And if they do that, this country is destroyed. We've become a dumping ground for the entire world, and we're not going to take it anymore. If Harris wins, a never-ending stream of illegal alien rapists, MS-13 animals, and child predators will flood into your communities. If I win on day one, we will begin the largest deportation operation in American history. These are the worst people anywhere in the world coming into our country. They're coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. There's nothing good about it. There's nothing can be made of it. And they're actually trying to get them to sign up and vote. They don't even speak the language. They don't even know where the hell they are. They want them to sign up and vote.
Just treating them as total animals, rapists, M13 animals. These are the worst people in the world. There's nothing good about it. We've become a dumping ground.
And they're being signed up to vote to explain why he's going to lose this election, which he's starting to realize he's going to lose. And don't forget, in that debate with Biden, he said there were 18, 19, 20 million immigrants pouring over the border, destroying America, killing Americans. It's utterly false. And it's provocative, it's vicious. And you're absolutely right, John. And I'm not saying this as someone who's Jewish as well. This is that playbook. And people write about this all the time, that when you're stirring up a kind of autocratic position, you have to demonize some group as the other. And that's what Hitler did with Jews, and blacks and gay people do, by the way. And this is what he's doing with immigrants. And the rate of people coming across the border is lower than it was when Trump was president. So there's not even any truth to it.
Right. And also the whole situation, and this is where I hope the Democrats will go on the offensive. Immigration is a good thing. Okay. Immigration is good for the country, good for the economy, and immigrants are good people who work hard, who pay taxes, who buy stuff and stimulate the consumer economy, who start businesses and create value for other people. We're a nation of immigrants.
And they don't get any benefits. They don't get Social Security, Medicare, even though they pay into it.
Right. That's a good point. So this is the demonization of immigrants. Well, Harry, it's kind of like the demonization of Jews, because let's face it, we're great. We're great. What's that to like? We add value. Okay. And so do immigrants. And actually immigrants, all the immigrants that I know have been incredibly nice people. I really just feel the need to say that because they're hardworking, nice people.
Well, look, I mean, after all, after we came here and just killed all the Native Americans, and then we enslaved Black people, Africans for, 100 years or so. After that, we had waves of immigrants who we also hated and despised, the Irish or the Italian, the Jews.
Right.
But you know what? It's that combination of different cultures that makes us who we are. The good parts of our nature is all that complexity, all the different cultures mixing together is what makes, I think, America a very exciting place to live.
Well, and the point that I made in my book, The Hypomanic Edge, that the New York Times did call one of the best ideas of the year in 2005, was that the immigrants are unusual people. They have the energy and the risk tolerance, and they get up and come here. And so they tend to have what I consider to be a mildly hypomanic temperament. So they've got the energy and the confidence and the risk tolerance. And these are very entrepreneurial people. It's an entrepreneurial temperament. And so the point I made in the book is we're the most entrepreneurial nation in the world because we have the most immigrants in the world. And the proof is the countries that are the highest in new business creation per capita are America, Canada, Israel, and Australia, all nations of immigrants.
When I was a very young man in the mid 80s, 1980s, I worked at the Jewish Home for the Aged in New Haven. And all of the residents in the nursing home were immigrants. They had all come many, many years earlier. The average age in the home was 88. immigrants are self-selecting tough people. You're right, John. They can be hypomanic. They certainly are strong. And what does it take to leave your own culture and enter another culture where you don't even speak the language? I have students at Cornell who are who are Chinese, and I'm amazed by them because they've learned English and they've come here away from their families. And there's something very strong about them. Who else would choose to do something like that?
But you're right, Harry, to point to our history, because it's not like we've ever really been nice to immigrants.
No.
We hated the Irish, we hated the Jews, we hated the Germans, we hated the Poles. Every wave, Chinese, the Chinese were treated terribly. So every wave that came, they were the dirty fill in the blanks, whatever they were. And so he's just, continuing that unproud tradition. So we shouldn't pat ourselves on the back.
And John, sad to say it, but the German Jews who came to America in the 19th century hated the Russian Jews who came at the beginning of the 20th century. So
I know, because I'm a Russian Jew. I know. So and it still stings. It still stings.
Okay.
I'm over it. So
I feel better. Do you? You feel better?
Yeah. Well, I still am waiting for an apology, but for the German Jews. But so one of the points you made earlier in this show, Harry, is that Trump can't help himself. He has to viciously strike out at any, like a scorpion, right? If you step on a scorpion, it's going to sting you, right? And one of the stories that I sometimes tell in therapy, maybe I think you know this story, and probably most of the people listening do too, but I'm just going to describe it briefly. There's a frog and a scorpion, right? And the scorpion says to the frog, "I need to get to the other side of the river. Can you give me a ride?" And the frog says, "Well, I'm not going to do that. If I do that, you're going to sting me and I'm going to die." And the scorpion said, "Now, wait a minute. Think about this logically for a minute, okay? If I sting you, then we're both going to drown. We're both going to die." Frog thinks about it for a minute. He goes, all right, that makes sense. Get on my back. And they're halfway across the river, and the scorpion stings him. And as they're both getting ready to drown and die, the frog says, "What the hell are you doing? Now we're both going to die. You explained me the whole thing." The scorpion says, I know, but I'm a scorpion. He can't help himself. It's in his nature. Right. And so if you were running for president and Georgia was a key swing state, right, and you didn't have the endorsement of the governor, you'd probably just be quiet about the governor, right? Because especially if the governor had a 66% approval rating in his own state, okay, it really wouldn't make sense for your hopes to win Georgia to attack that person. But of course, because he's a scorpion, he can't help himself.
Let me give you the bad news. It's that for whatever reason, Brad Raffensperger and Brian Kemp, your governor, who I got elected, by the way. If it wasn't for me, he would not be your governor. I think everybody knows that. He's a very disloyal person, isn't he? Very disloyal. But these two are doing... So I did these two big rallies, and he won. He did win. He won by like 2%. And his wife looked at me and said, "Thank you, sir. We'll never, ever be able to repay you for what you did. You got my husband the nomination, and then we beat somebody who was unbeatable." You know, she was, in theory, unbeatable. She was the hottest politician in the country at the time. Democrat politician, I would say I was hotter because I was president. So I was hotter now. I'm only kidding, Marjorie. I'm only kidding. Although maybe I'm not kidding, actually. No, she was like the hottest, certainly the hottest Democrat politician in the country. And she was going wild for years. She's still going wild. She can't even believe it. But I got him by doing massive rallies. And I really worked hard. He's the most disloyal guy I think I've ever seen. But think of the wife. "We can never repay you for what you've done, sir. We could have never won." And now she said 2 weeks ago that I will not endorse him because he hasn't earned my endorsement. I haven't earned her endorsement. I have nothing to do with her. Somewhere he went bad. And you know what? your numbers in Georgia are very average. Your crime numbers, your economic numbers, all of your numbers, you're very average. You can do a lot better, and you'll do a lot better with a better governor. You can do a lot better, just so you understand.
So also what's interesting is because he has to be superior in all situations, he's claiming that he's claiming that Kemp's success is on his coattails. And in terms of these sir stories, right, he's making up a crazy story where Kemp's wife is going, oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. My weak husband couldn't have made it on his own. Only with your power and strength was he able to achieve. All right. So he's created this whole scenario where not only is this guy just like so disloyal, he's so disloyal, you deserve another governor. You wouldn't give me those 11,800 votes, still hasn't gotten over that. Plus he's been indicted in Georgia. Of course, there's always that. But he has to tell a story where they're coming to him pathetically, thanking him for being the strong man who saved them.
And without sounding too salacious, Trump has a thing for other people's wives. He's known for it.
Yes.
And here's a story about the governor's wife's calling him sir, which is a dead giveaway that it's a made-up story. The sir.
Yeah, that's right. Every time they use the word sir, that's a made-up story. That's one of our guests, I think it was John Talmadge, said he calls them sir stories. That's a whole genre of made-up stories. But you're right to point out the thing about the wife, because actually one of Trump's hobbies or pleasures was he tried to make a mission of having sex with as many wives of his friends as possible, because he's someone who gets off on betrayal and dominating other people and besting other people and humiliating other people. And so to be his friend is to be someone he wants to destroy or best in some way.
Well, it's not a friendship.
Right.
By definition. Michael Waltz, in his book about Trump, said that Trump had said to him that what gave him some of the great pleasure in the world was telling an attractive wife of a man that he knew that she should really spend time with him sexually, and she would say, oh no, I could never do that. And then he would call the husband on the phone, put him on speakerphone, and invite the husband to go with him to have some sexual escapade with some women. And if the husband sounded amenable, he would then turn to the wife and say, see, what have you got to lose? You can even get back at him. This is the kind of guy.
So devious. Yeah. It's the one way in which he's actually kind of smart in a perverse kind of way. We were talking about what a malignant narcissist Trump is, right? And how he really can't help himself. Okay. Well, a lot of people have pointed to a posting that he did recently as more sign that he's deteriorating, but also to show you how a malignant narcissist thinks. So I'm going to read his Truth Social post. What are the chances that crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in history of the U.S., whose presidency was unconstitutionally stolen from him by Kamala, Barack, misspelled Barrack, Hussein, capitalized middle name, Obama, crazy Nancy Pelosi, shifty Adam Schiff, crying Chuck Schumer, and the others on the lunatic left, crashes the Democratic National Convention and tries to take back the nomination. He's saying Biden is going to crash the convention and try to steal back the nomination, beginning with challenging me to another debate. He feels that he has made a historically tragic mistake by handing over the U.S. presidency, a coup, to the people in the world he most hates, and he wants it back now.
Now, I love this tweet. I sent this to John last night, and he wrote me back saying, OMG. What I love about this thing is as an evidence of Trump's personality disorder, because one of the things that's difficult about personality disorders as an idea is people don't know what it means. It sounds very simplistic. Oh, he's got a disordered personality. But a disordered personality, and there are different categories of them that clinicians think about, but personality disorders really mean that the way that a person experiences him or herself is so disordered that they're spontaneous and authentic sitting on a disturbed platform. So, for example, I've been arguing that Trump is always afraid every moment that he's going to be diminished. Every moment is an opportunity to be diminished. We saw that in that wonderful golf cart clip that we saw when he wasn't even before an audience. And what was he saying? I got Biden out, Kamala's a bitch, that kind of thing. So in this one, we get a sense of what empathy is for someone with malignant narcissism. He's having an empathic moment. He's imagining himself in Biden's head. And how is he imagining himself in Biden's head? I have been a subject of a coup. I've been thrown out of power. And I'm steaming about it. I'm ruminating, Shifty Adam Schiff and crying Chuck Schumer and the lunatic left. And he goes, I know what Biden must be thinking. I want to get back. I want to get back. And then I want to have another debate with Trump. Well, this is not empathy. This is pseudo empathy.
Projection. It's projection.
He's projecting himself into Biden's head.
Exactly.
And he's also afraid that this is what's going to happen to him in November. And then he will be in this position again.
Well, what's amazing is he's basically saying, well, of course, Biden's going to plan like a January 6th insurrection to steal back power. Well, no, he isn't. He voluntarily surrendered power graciously, lovingly, in an orderly, pass the baton, kind of way.
And incredibly brilliant political timing and move, too. So it was both.
Yes.
It was authentic. It was generative. It was generous. It was the right thing to do. And he did it exactly the right moment. 2 days after J.D. Vance was made the vice presidential nominee. And he stepped on that. He stepped on that laugh. Right?
He can't imagine that someone could voluntarily give up power. If you've ever seen the play Hamilton, that wonderful character of King George, where he's laughing, that he just can't believe that George Washington is going to cede power to John Adams, that little man. And he goes, he says, ceding power. He goes, I didn't even know that was a thing you could do. Well, I don't think Trump, as a malignant, imagines that's a thing that anyone would voluntarily do, which is why I predicted a year before January 6th, he will not voluntarily surrender power. There will not be a peaceful transition of power, period. I said that a year before January 6th because he's a malignant narcissist. He's not capable of it.
Absolutely. And he will, if look, Kamala has reversed the 5-point lead that Trump had, and it's only been like a couple of weeks. If she pulls ahead by another 6 points, and it looks like that's where it's headed, Trump is going to begin laying the groundwork more actively that he is going to be cheated out of this election again. That we don't even have to think about whether that's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it's one reason why, and I'm not saying this to urge people to go out and vote. That's other people's jobs. But the only way to really defeat that kind of opposition is to win by more than 6, 7, or 8 million votes. Mm-hmm. If it's close, it's easier to muddy the waters and dismantle democracy. The larger the margin of victory, the less powerful that claim will be. So everyone should
very good point. So, I want to point out to some of the work that some of the other people following Trump have been doing. One is Ron Filipowski. A lot of you have probably seen his footage on Twitter. A theme that we haven't been bringing up, but I've kept wanting to bring up, is this habit Trump has of waving to nobody. It's like Eleanor Rigby, died in a church where nobody was, he's all by himself, but he's waving to a non-existent crowd. Okay. I mean, this is some kind of, metaphor for what it is to be an empty narcissist. So Ron Filipowski, and by the way, those of you who are listening, I apologize. We're just going to see a series of visuals of Donald Trump waving to nobody.
See you later.
the lonely people.
Don't forget NASCAR.
Oh, that's right. He was saluting nobody at NASCAR, right? And one of those scenes, he was waving at nobody at NASCAR. He was like in the parking lot waving, for those of you who are just listening. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to show you is something that the Lincoln Project has done, one of their ads. And the reason I want to show you this is because they have really taken our message that he has cognitive decline and malignant narcissism and taken it and put it into a video, but in more layman's terms. They're not using the diagnostic terms. But one of the things we've been noticing with the weird campaign and the creepy campaign is that some of our ideas are leaching into the culture without having to use the diagnostic terms. It's not necessary. Right. We just want the public to understand. So we're just going to quickly, Chip, let's see this Lincoln Project video.
Old, weak.
Many don't feel he is fit.
Sick, tired.
Too old to serve.
Stammering, slurring.
He was ranting and raving.
Slipping, forgetting.
And the guy just kept getting confused.
Slow.
Panic has certainly set in.
You know which politician we're talking about, right? Oh, you thought it was about Joe Biden?
Venezuela, it's unbelievable.
Is he all right?
Let's think about some more words. Liar.
I have absolutely no idea who this woman is.
Criminal. Rapist.
I'm here because Donald Trump raped me.
Scammer.
I can say very clearly President Trump is a liar.
Con man. Gross. Vain.
I don't care about you. I just want your vote.
Cruel.
You are a rude, terrible person.
Disgusting. Creep. You know exactly who we're talking about.
You won't have to vote anymore.
Don't you?
Well, I think it speaks for itself. Well done.
Yeah,
nice work. Well, thank you, Lincoln Project. Okay, so I want to do a little bit of a special sequence here on a crime in progress. What they are attempting is the largest robbery in human history. What I'm talking about is Trump's new position on crypto. Okay. Trump used to be against crypto, but as you'll see, he now has some crypto bro friends. But what's going to happen if he became president and starts basically pitching cybercurrency? The Washington Post, as an editorial board, not as individuals, had this editorial. Republicans suddenly love crypto. Americans should beware. The cryptocurrency lobby is lining up behind Donald Trump. Voters should see nothing good in this. When he was president a few years ago, Donald Trump called it a scam. Nothing much has changed about cryptocurrency since then. In fact, the biggest news has been the spectacular crash of the cryptocurrency exchange FTX and the conviction of its founder on fraud charges. Cryptocurrency is a volatile asset with no intrinsic value. It is used almost exclusively to speculate or to engage in shady businesses, such as selling drugs or collecting ransom, for which the anonymous nature of crypto accounts comes in handy. The former president, however, has changed his tune, promising to make the United States, quote, the crypto capital of the planet. And the Republican Party seems eager to follow. Senator Cynthia Lummis proposed that the federal government purchased around 5% of the world's Bitcoin supply to build a strategic reserve, such as the ones the United States has for oil and gold. Mr. Trump's pivot attests to the new power emerging in American politics, a class of technological entrepreneurs and venture capitalists uncomfortable with the government regulations and intended to protect Americans. Crypto backers are staking their considerable fortunes on Republicans in 2024. Fair Shake, a pro-crypto super PAC, has raised more than $200 million. The Winklevoss twins, big crypto investors who launched the Gemini crypto exchange, have contributed millions of dollars. Venture capitalists Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz, perhaps the biggest investors in crypto firms, have offered support to pro-Trump PACs. Silicon Valley entrepreneur Peter Thiel helped launch the political career of Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, who is now Mr. Trump's running mate. So this is the plan, right? If the government starts buying crypto, right, who are they buying it from? Oh, from these billionaires, right? Because they're holding it all. So this worthless string of random numbers. And this is just my opinion. I happen to think crypto is a scam from the get-go. It's basically a Ponzi scheme. This is my personal view, so you don't have to agree with this. But it's basically a Ponzi scheme because it has no intrinsic value. You see, stock, you actually own a portion of an actual company. Okay. With crypto, you just own a series of random numbers that is being basically on an exchange where people are bidding up the price, but it has no actual intrinsic value. So what it is, and I don't mean this necessarily in the criminal sense, but it is essentially a Ponzi scheme in the sense that you're just betting that more people are going to buy. Right. And that's going to raise the price. Well, of course, if the government is buying cryptocurrency, what's that going to do to the price? It's going to go through the roof, right? Through the roof. And then when America actually needs money and they go into Fort Knox, what are they going to find? A worthless string of random numbers. Or let's assume it's not worthless. Okay. If we're in some kind of crisis and suddenly the U.S. needs to redeem like $5 trillion worth of Bitcoin, well, what do you think that's going to do to the price of Bitcoin? It's going to plummet. If suddenly we need to cash out $5 trillion worth, which means it will get 10 cents on the dollar. But the people who will have made out are the Elon Musks of this world. So here, I want you to hear, I have 3 tapes put together. Now, this is the new Trump talking about crypto.
What about crypto? You spoke at that crypto conference last weekend, and you said that you'd like crypto to have a more prominent space in America. How
you have to understand about crypto. Crypto is a very interesting thing, very high level in certain ways, intellectually very high level. But if we don't do it, China's going to do it. China's going to do it anyway. But if we don't do it, China's doing it. China's already doing it. And if we don't do it, other countries are going to do it. So we might as well be at the forefront. And there are people in crypto that are very, very smart people who do love our country, and they think it's good. Who knows? Maybe we'll pay off our $35 trillion, hand them a little crypto check, right? We'll hand them a little Bitcoin and wipe out our $35 trillion.
But how do you want it to be more prominent in America? How will that work?
Oh, it's going to work easily. It's already prominent. It's moving along. It's very loosely regulated. That's one of the reasons it's moving along. But it is a different form of a currency, and it's going to end up benefiting the country. But if we shut it down, like, Biden's trying to shut it down, Biden doesn't have the intellect to shut it down. Can you imagine this guy's telling you to shut something down like that? He has no idea what the hell it is. But
thank you for the statement. Yeah, with the goggles on.
A lot of the smartest people in crypto are moving their businesses out of the U.S. because they're scared of the U.S.'s regulations.
Because of the hostility.
Correct.
Yeah, crypto is moving out of the U.S. because of hostility toward crypto.
Correct. So what are you going to do to stop it?
Well, we'll stop it because I don't want that. I want that. If we're going to embrace it, we have to let them be here.
Yes, sir.
With your help, we will save our nation, we will restore our republic, and we will make America and Bitcoin bigger, better, stronger, richer, freer, and greater than ever before. Thank you all. Have a good time with your Bitcoin and your crypto and everything else that you're playing with. And we're going to make that one of the greatest industries on earth. Good luck, and God bless you all. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
So just so you understand, this is a scheme to steal trillions and trillions of dollars. It's Robin Hood in reverse. We're going to steal from the poor to give to the rich. From now on, when you write your quarterly tax check, you might as well just address it to Elon Musk because the government's going to be buying his Bitcoin. And of course, the idea that we could pay off our debt with a little Bitcoin, trillions and trillions of dollars in national debt is being held by foreign countries. You think they're going to redeem our bonds for a little bit of Bitcoin? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, this is just a con job.
It's just a con job.
Con job.
And just a con job. But I just think you need to understand that the level of larceny here, talk about grand larceny. Okay. He's really talking about bankrupting the country. Do you know what I mean? If we're going to have a strategic reserve of Bitcoin and we're going to be putting some like 5% of GDP or something, it's a massive theft of trillions of dollars. You've never seen the world. You know how he always likes to say, the world's never seen a robbery like this. They've never seen a crime. Well, actually, the world's never seen a crime like this. It's that. There's too many zeros.
He's just trying to make America great again. Come on.
Well, he's trying to make America bankrupt for the first time. Ever since Alexander Hamilton, right, went out of his way to create a system that guaranteed the full faith and credit of the United States, he is trying to destroy the full faith and credit of the United States because we're not going to pay it off with Bitcoin. And then we're going to be screwed. Okay. So this is just a big deal. It's really under the radar. And I just think people need to know about this. Now, why did he change his view so dramatically? You might ask.
And Elon, I love Elon Musk. Do we love him? I love him. And I'm constantly talking about electric cars, but I don't mean I'm totally for them, but whatever the market says, and if it's 10% of the market, 12%, 7%, 20%, whatever it is, it's okay. But you can't have 100% electric cars. And so Elon endorsed me recently, the other day.
Yeah, so the point is that he's always been demonizing electric cars too, right? But Elon endorsed me the other day. So now I've changed my view on electric cars. I mean, they can't be everything. They can't be all of them, but they're good. Well, even bigger for Elon than his endorsement of electric cars is his getting behind crypto. I mean, Elon is the crypto bro of bros. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're right. I just want to point out something. It may be obvious, but Trump has no values. He doesn't believe in the environment. He doesn't believe in electric cars or non-electric cars. He doesn't believe in abortion for or against. It's all about whether it makes him feel more powerful or affirmed. That's the only criteria. So if Elon says, here's $40 million a month, now go support Bitcoin, he'll say, sure, okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, that's right. It's all transactional. It's all transactional.
At all.
Right. Yeah. And also, he's always up for a crime. You know those movies where it's like, the heist movies where it's like, we're going to do one last job, and they call it the old guys, who are good at robberies, he knows a heist when he sees one, it's like he gets the play. He gets it. All right. I know we're running a little late here. Well, so, one of the things we say about Kennedy is he's really, he is the person in the race who actually makes Trump look less demented and crazy. I think that might be one of the reasons that he's in the race, because compared to him, Trump actually kind of looks good. Well, I want to play for you what Kennedy said at that Bitcoin conference, because I want you to understand, it's not just, this is a coordinated play. This is a coordinated play. And here he actually says the quiet part out loud. Here's the plan for crypto.
On day one as president, I will sign another executive order directing the U.S. Treasury to purchase 550 Bitcoin daily until the U.S. has built a reserve of at least 4 million Bitcoins. And a position of dominance that no other country will be able to usurp. Our nation holds approximately 19% of global gold reserves. This policy will give us about the same proportion of total Bitcoin. The cascading impact from these actions will eventually move Bitcoin to a valuation of hundreds of trillions of dollars. On day one as president, I will sign also an executive order directing the IRS to issue public guidelines that all transactions between Bitcoin and the US dollar are unreportable transactions. And by extension, non-taxable.
So you see, Harry, what the plan is, aside from the fact that we're going to bankrupt the country, right, to make buying Bitcoin suddenly our main priority, so we'll have a strategic reserve of worthless random numbers in case we ever need them. But in more than that, he wants Bitcoin transactions to be invisible to the Treasury and untaxable. So you see, Harry, now if our patients pay us in Bitcoin, we never have to pay taxes again. Ever, not a penny, not a penny. Isn't that great? That's great. Oh, but wait a minute. Who's going to fund the government if none of us are paying taxes? Again, an attempt to actually bring down the country. Oh, actually, you know who is going to pay taxes? You dumb clucks who get W-2s and have real jobs. Okay, you're the only ones who are actually have your taxes withheld because you're not being paid in Bitcoin.
That's terrible.
So again, it's just larceny, and but Kennedy has spelled it out for us. So Harry, Kennedy really is nuts. Okay, obviously, and I just have to keep pointing that out. When you and I were in third grade, one of the things that was considered funny was dead baby jokes. Right? I'm not saying they're funny now. I didn't even find them that funny then, to be perfectly honest. But it was a genre. It was a thing, right? I can't even remember any of them now, right? But we grew up. We grew out of it. People don't really tell dead baby jokes anymore. It's not like a thing. Look, I know it's not in good taste, but no, it's just really too immature and gross, and no one really feels an attraction to it unless you've kind of failed to mature. Your sort of arrested development, case of arrested development. Because I'll tell you, if you're into that kind of thing, Harry, the only thing funnier than a dead baby joke is a dead baby animal prank. Can we see that cover, Chip? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. admits he left a dead bear in Central Park. Mr. Kennedy, an independent presidential candidate, confessed to dropping off the bear cub 10 years ago and making it appear that a bike had hit the animal. So that sounds pretty weird, right? I mean, what could possibly be the explanation? Well, look, there's a completely reasonable explanation. And he went on Twitter and sat down with Roseanne Barr, who is a right-wing nut now, and of course is a Trumpster. So of course she's supporting Kennedy because they're basically the same person. So let him explain in his own words what happened, and then you'll understand.
I was taking a group of people falconing up in Goshen, New York, up in the Hudson Valley, and I was supposed to meet them there at maybe 8 or 9. I was driving up maybe really early, 7, and that woman in a van in front of me hit a bear and killed it, a young bear. So I pulled over and I picked up the bear and put him in the back of my van because I was going to skin the bear. And it was very good condition, and I was going to put the meat in my refrigerator. And you can do that in New York State. You can get a bear tag for a roadkill bear. And so then we went hawking, and I had the bear in my car. And then we had a really good day, and we went late. We were catching a lot of game, and the people really loved it, so we stayed late. And instead of going back to my home in Westchester, I had to go right to the city because there was a dinner at Peter Luger's Steakhouse. And at the end of the dinner, it went late, and I realized I couldn't go home. I had to go to the airport. And the bear was in my car, and I didn't want to leave the bear in the car because that would have been bad. So then I thought, at that time, this was the little bit of the redneck in me. There'd been a series of bicycle accidents in New York. They had just put in the bike lanes, and saw a couple of people had gotten killed, and it was every day, and people had gotten badly injured. Every day it was in the press. And so I thought, I wasn't drinking, of course, but people were drinking with me who thought this was a good idea. And I said, I had an old bike in my car that somebody had asked me to get rid of it. I said, let's go put the bear in Central Park and we'll make it look like he got hit by a bike. It'll be funny for people. So everybody thought that's a great idea. So we went and did that, and we thought it would be amusing for whoever found it or something. The next day, it was it was on every television station. It was the front page of every paper, and I turned on the TV, and there was a mile of yellow tape, and there were 20 cop cars. There were helicopters flying over it. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? And then they were were some people on TV in tie-back suits with gloves on lifting up the bike, and they're saying they're going to take this up to Albany to get fingerprinted.
Uh-oh.
And I was worried because my prints were all over that bike. Luckily, the story died down after a while, and it stayed dead for a decade. And the New Yorker somehow found out about it, and they're going to do a big article on me, and that's one of the articles. So they asked me, the fact checker said, you know, it's going to be a bad story.
I think it's a great story.
Yeah, I think it's a great story.
God. What happened to him? I mean, I feel terrible that his father was murdered when he was a little boy. I mean, it's horrifying. Yeah. But this parody of being someone important. And this also, I think, the strange idea that his fingerprints would somehow be in the criminal database. Like my fingerprints are not in a criminal database. No one's going to find them up from a bike.
Yeah. I love the way he tells us such a madcap story. It seemed like a good idea at the time, and he's like this raconteur, and everybody's laughing. It's completely bizarre and gross and inappropriate. And
I thought it was really kind of stupid, really, when he said it.
Yeah, it sounded stupid. But listen. One of the things we learn in graduate school is not to be judgmental. And which one of us hasn't had this happen to us? We've got a dead baby bear in the trunk. You lose track of time. You wanted to skin it, but you lose track of time. You got to go to Peter Luger's and have dinner, and then you got to catch a flight. And what's a guy going to do with a dead bear? Obviously, in that kind of situation, who wouldn't drop it into the park with a bike?
I mean, I've done it. Haven't you?
Let's be honest. We've all done it from time to time.
It's really. I have nothing more to say. I just think it's so sad that he's so great.
Well, yes. Moving from the ridiculous to the sublime.
Okay.
We have to talk about Tim Walz's speech last night. We only have a few clips. I wish we could spend a half an hour on it, but he's so inspiring. I'm so excited. But also, I want to point out that, Harry, when we played that song about Vance, and this is the title of the song, Fucking His Couch, we did get some pushback. We got a lot of laughy faces on the, instant, on the scroll. But a lot of people saying, you're kind of losing your credibility as psychologists by going this low. I just expected more of you. Well, let me say, if we've lost our credibility as psychologists, what about someone who's going to be the future vice president of the United States? One of the things I love about Tim Walz is this guy is funny as well as serious. Let's see that tape.
And I got to tell you, his running mate shares his dangerous and backward agenda for this country. J.D. Vance literally wrote the foreword for the architect of the Project 2025 agenda. Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, J.D. studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on! That's not what middle America is. And I got to tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is, if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So, you see what I did there?
See what I did there? I love this guy. I feel like he's the Midwestern Don Rickles.
He's true. You know what my thought too is he's sort of the Midwestern Bill Clinton. He's got that charisma. He can connect with working people. And as one commentator said, he's progressive in his policies, but he reads Republican to the public. He looks like a Republican governor.
Right.
And I just think it was a brilliant choice by Kamala Harris.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I think we're really discovering just how talented this guy is. And one of his great talents is that we can definitively say the weird campaign began with him.
I got to tell you, pointing out just an observation of mine that I made. I just have to say it. You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy and yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see.
That's what you see. And as George Conway says, the best political message is one that is just proving something you already see, you already feel, you already believe, you already know. Deep in your guts, you know he's nuts, okay? And so calling them weird and making it a message is a winning message, And finally, and it's also our message, but light with it doesn't, you don't need a diagnosis to know something's wrong with someone, something's off with them. You don't want this weird person to have all this power over your life, even if you can't put a diagnosis on it or put a label on it. That's not what's important. What's important is you're realizing this person is weird. And here's the other message that we're going to be hearing a lot of from the Democrats.
So you know what's out there, so say it with me. We aren't going back. We aren't going back. We are not going back.
You know, this guy's not afraid of a fight.
Oh, not at all. But you know, we didn't show this clip, but when Kamala Harris was asked to respond at a rally to Trump calling her dumb and low IQ and garbage, she just looked at the audience and said, you know, it's so disrespectful. It's the same old stuff. So she didn't answer it. She just put it down. And that's what this guy can do. It's going to be very interesting to see him develop on the trail. He's going to be very powerful.
And, you know, he's ex-military. He was a former football coach. He's a former teacher, beloved teacher, but also a football coach who won a championship. This guy knows how to fight. And we need a fighter. And the fact that he's funny. And the other thing that he said in his speech that I just want to add, he said, Kamala has brought the joy back. And as you remember, last week, I danced for all of you on national YouTube because I was experiencing an episode of Kamala Mania. And I could not control myself and could not be held responsible for my outbursts of joy.
And you weren't taking the medication that was prescribed for you for Kamala Mania.
There's that. That's true. Well, that's true. And I don't want to. And I don't want to. I love my Kamala Mania. I don't want to be cured. Leave me alone.
Self-determination, John. It's all yours, buddy.
You know, all these manic people don't want to take the medicine. I don't want to be cured of my Kamala Mania. I love it. Anyway, speaking about people being disrespected, I am so grateful that we have a colleague of mine who I have a great deal of respect for, Dr. Hirshfeld-Flores. Here is a copy of her book, Fury. And I just want to point out that someone wrote a great blurb for her. It said, if a book ever met the historic moment, it is this one. That's John Gartner, PhD, said that. And it's true. And I still feel that way. And I'm so glad you're here today. And thank you for being so patient and listening to us blah, blah, blah on. I really appreciate it.
It's so great to have you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I was really happy to be invited. And I won't be like Trump and complain about you keeping me waiting.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, you've been waiting a long time, right, to see women empowered, as I think they are being by Kamala. You know, I think your book Fury, and for people to know, it's an edited book. It's got a lot of different voices, and it really gives expression to the trauma and the rage and the degradation that women have felt for so long in response to Trump, that makes all of this so much more significant, I think, in the light of that. Could you maybe say something about the message of the book and in light of what's happening today?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just thank you so much for inviting me, and also for your blurb on the book. Way back. So yeah, we said, in our description of the book, we said that Donald Trump was an affront to the entire feminine ethos of caring. because of everything you all have been putting forward in terms of his lack of empathy, lack of respect, not to mention, history of assaulting women.
Yeah.
And so we put out a call and we cast a wide net. We were open to hearing from people who supported Trump about why they, women who supported Trump to hear. We really just wanted to hear women's reactions in response to his presidency. And we didn't hear from any Trump supporters, but we heard from many, hundreds of women, and we had to call through, and we ultimately collected, my co-editor, Amy Roost, and I collected 38 essays by women of all diverse backgrounds, diverse ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, Muslims as well as Jews, Black, Latino, white, therapists, handful of therapists. So writing about their reactions to the 2016 election, their reaction to Trump's rhetoric, what they, their family members' reactions, client, patient reactions, and also, so their grief and despair, but also how they were becoming empowered. We really wanted to highlight the empowerment in terms of fighting back and how it had really catalyzed an activism, like we saw in the Women's March and, as we've seen in the various groups that have been resisting since 2016.
So in a way, this is almost like, I'm trying to think of a historical, comparison, to think of what it must, and maybe you have to try to help us understand what it must mean to see, not only are we going to beat Trump, but a woman's going to beat him up.
Yeah.
A woman, right? I mean, what must that feel like for you?
Well, absolutely. And, I've been thinking about it more since you invited me to be on the show, and just, the incredible sense of empowerment of not only having a strong candidate, but having a strong woman candidate, a strong woman of color candidate who's finally, who's calling him out in a way that Biden wasn't able to, who's fighting more fiercely. And I was, not to be too esoteric, but I was kind of looking back at some of the blogging I did in 2016, 17. And I wrote about the Women's March that happened, right after the election. Yeah. And I wrote an essay called Durga and the Women's March. And Durga was a mythological figure in Hindu mythology. And basically there was a monster that was threatening the three main deities in Hinduism. And they didn't feel confident that they could defeat this monster. And so they created a woman, a goddess named Durga. And the monster didn't believe that he could ever be defeated by a woman. So he just kind of poo-pooed it. There was a prophecy, as happens in mythology, there was a prophecy that he would be killed by a woman. And he didn't believe it. So he just went on, like Trump went on his very narcissistic, evil way, and ultimately was slayed by this woman goddess. So that kind of, that came to mind as a hopeful analogy, hopefully in terms of.
I like it. So Kamala Durga Harris.
Exactly.
She's embodying, if we were Jungians, right, then we would say that Kamala is embodying the archetype of Durga.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So, and I certainly see in my women clients in particular are feeling so much better than they were 3 weeks ago.
Right. They've like 10 years of therapy in one day.
Exactly. Yeah. Without having to do psychedelics or anything.
Right. That's another topic that you and I have in common. We'll talk about after we win the revolution, right? After we're safe.
Exactly.
Well, you mentioned therapy. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
What
and
were you
me
gonna
too.
say?
No, I mean, I think like, I imagine the two of you and so many of us are feeling just this weight lifted. I mean, it's
Yes.
you can feel the energy, the collective energy shifting and the weight lifting.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned therapy. We've all had this experience as therapists. I think every therapist in America has had this experience of patients, especially female patients, talking about feeling re-traumatized by Trump. Any ways that they've been violated or exploited or bullied, it just re-traumatizes them. It triggers them. It brings it back. So it's really, I feel in some ways the whole country has been suffering from like a post-Trump traumatic stress disorder. But I don't know what it feels like to be a woman. And to have someone bragging about grabbing women's pussies and being an adjudicated rapist and seeing people celebrating him, I just trying to imagine what that would feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kamala talks about not going back. I don't want to go back to, to witnessing the trauma that my clients, especially women, not only women, but especially women, have been experiencing, and all this, all the stories of. I think definitely Trump brought up past trauma for many of my clients who are survivors of sexual assault. Mostly women, but even men have talked about it. And just what it feels like walking around in a country where the leader is a perpetrator. I think there's like a just somatic feeling of lack of safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there? I'm always. I don't mean to sound like the eternal optimist, but I'm always looking for how to salvage something. Do you find that it helps your women clients to talk about how they feel re-traumatized? Does that help them to get a hold of their personal traumas? So is it actually useful sometimes if they're not overwhelmed by it?
I think so. I think that's a really good point. I mean, I do think that looking back, that many of my women clients, in light of everything in the media about Trump's history of assault, I mean, going way back to the Access Hollywood tape,
Yes.
it did provoke women to start to talk more, much like the Me Too movement, provoked my women clients to want to tell their stories and want to process past traumas that they hadn't, that had been buried, like so many traumas that they hadn't been ready or willing to uncover and talk about and heal from. So yes, in that way, I guess you could say there was a silver lining.
Yeah, as far as the Me Too movement goes, John and I are really trying to raise sort of psychological awareness in the culture. We've been focusing on Trump, but the thing about the Me Too movement was it was exposing something that was hidden in plain sight. So, for example, I have one of my best friends, and when the Me Too movement happened, I asked her about it, and she said to me, Harry, I have stories as long as my arm. And I remember saying to her, I'm just wondering, and it wasn't a reproach. I just said, how come you never told me? And she just sort of looked at me. She's one of those articulate people I know. But we kind of struggled with it together because there was a way in which it provoked shame, it provoked feeling victimized, and in a way, it wasn't even something to talk to a nice guy who you trusted. That's how isolating and how hidden it was in plain sight. And that's why if there is a silver lining, the notion that we have a perpetrator like Trump so obviously there, and now having this campaign from Harris with so much compassion and excitement and joy, maybe it will continue this work of bringing this stuff out in the open.
Yeah, that would be a wonderful outcome. And after Christine Blasey Ford's testimony at the Kavanaugh hearing, I think I had read that number of calls to rape crisis centers skyrocketed, so I think there was a kind of permission for women to come forward and to share their stories. And, and to your point, I mean, I'm thinking of a client without revealing too much, but, who was assaulted on her college campus and did try to report it to the college. And she ended up being scapegoated and not taken seriously. And it just made things worse. And it's just, that happens for so many women. That kind of thing happens.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's
still happening on campuses. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. One of the things my wife has emphasized to me is you don't get it. She says, like, all women have been assaulted. I mean, like, basically, like, you don't get through life as a female, without being impinged upon in some way. And so I'm thinking about this as almost mythological. This Durga thing is, you've really got my imagination going, is that it's not just Kamala, that is the Durga energy, the entering all of the women in our country at once, kind of like the Women's March, right? It was this outpouring, right? It was this outpouring of energy and empowerment. I feel like we're in the age of Durga.
John, I wish it were all the women in America, but don't forget, we're living in a divided country.
Right.
That's right.
All the women on Earth won.
Right, but lots of women in these MAGA rallies. It's not all men.
Lots of women in Earth too. Yeah, saying, whatever, wearing T-shirts, he can grab my pussy, and wearing gold lame diapers, and what have you.
Yeah, but it's true, and that so many white women still, the majority of white women still vote Republican.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but that's why
in the suburbs, especially. I think that's changing in the suburbs, especially.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why we called our book Fury, because there was, Trump did unleash this fury. And of course, we all know that anger can be very empowering at its best. So,
yes.
And Kamala really embodies that. I mean, as a prosecutor or someone who prosecutes the case, to me, it feels like righteous anger, the joyous warrior, happy war. She really embodies that. I mean, I feel like she could dress up as like the goddess Diana or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the meme of her as a shark, with all of Trump's weird
Yes,
sharks.
chasing him. Yeah. We had that on the show, actually, because we're so immature. Yes, we do that here.
Well, we'll have to call this the Jungian episode.
Yeah. But I want to say, not only women, sexual abuse survivors were triggered by Trump, have been triggered by Trump, but women, I also heard stories from a lot of women with either narcissistic fathers or narcissistic spouses or partners.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. It's a very good point. No, because so many women have been coming to therapy saying, I think my husband's a narcissist, and because they're dealing with some degree of this toxic masculinity, with the gaslighting, with the putting you down, controlling you, keeping you from having other, relationships. This is a type of relationship. And so I think in some ways, a lot of women are self-identifying now as being in these toxic relationships with narcissists, maybe in a way they hadn't been able to articulate before, because he does so embody that. It's a very good point.
I agree. And that again is in a way a silver lining, that, the terms narcissism and gaslighting are in the lexicon, in the national lexicon, in a way that they weren't before.
Well, one thing I think maybe the three of us understand as therapists, that if an event is not overly destructive and overwhelming, it is an opportunity to see more, to embrace reality, and to see strength when you didn't realize it was there. And so that's what I kind of rely on or hope for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Harry, do you have any other questions for Dr. Hirshfeld?
I don't at the moment, but what a wonderful book. I haven't looked at it, but that's my next stop after this, is to look at those stories. It sounds like a wonderful project.
Thank you. Yeah, it was.
Go Durga.
Go Durga. Yeah. we had a podcast that was part of the Fury, and the fist.
Oh yeah.
Was
There we go.
We got it.
All right.
And I've been saying, may the best woman win.
Amen.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks so much for coming. It was great seeing you. Bye-bye. All right. Well, I guess we're up to the shrink wrap section of our show. So, Harry, what have we learned today?
What did we learn today? Oh, we've learned so much, as we always do. I've been so enjoying these shows, John, and you're such a pleasure to work with. I think that what I want to emphasize today is really that tweet we just looked at, because here's how I see it. As long as Biden was the candidate, Trump and Vance really saw Biden as weak. They pushed it. They emphasized the weakness. The debate performance just was red meat to them. Then they went, oh, they're going to win now because Biden looked so weak, even though he was much less weak in actuality than people thought. You and I talked about that for a while. But so what they were saying to the country was, look, we're aggressive, we're tough, we're better than him. And so they were running on aggression. And aggression will win out over weakness every time, as you've pointed out.
Correct.
As my old teacher, Drew Weston, has pointed out. But now we have something different. Now we have the joyful, funny, warm, the momentum of Kamala Harris, where she is not offering aggression purely. She's offering strength, but she's also offering love. And what I think was most important about that tweet, and I want to really put this to you, John, and to our viewers and listeners, which is that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are offering empathy. That is, they are really relating to the whole experience of their audience, whereas Trump is only relating to the ways in which his audience feels victimized or superseded by immigrants, and with all the lies he tells to get their anger up. But it cannot win against a really well integration of love, strength, and empathy. That's what Obama had. That's what Reagan had. It's what great leaders offer. It's what in American politics takes you further. And I think that if we all, as human beings, our public, can think about this psychologically, which is watch the awareness and the way that Kamala and Walz relates to the audience. That will tell you how psychologically healthy they are, and also why they're going to win.
Yeah. You mentioned this issue of adding joy. I didn't add it to the show because we're already overloaded with tapes, but someone asked Vance recently something about, the Democrats are re-injecting joy or something, or where's your joy? And he says, oh, well, my joy is when you ask stupid questions and I get to laugh. Ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, right. It only works if your opponent looks weak.
Correct.
Then aggression and hostility and diminishing and calling people's names, then it works. If you're knocking out Marco Rubio by calling him little Marco, that'll work.
Yeah.
But it worked sadly against Hillary Clinton, who I believe would have been an excellent president, although I never thought she'd be a good candidate. She just didn't have those skills. And he was able to make her look weak. And that's why he squeaked out a victory.
And that's why we've taken away his superpower, because he cannot look stronger than Kamala, because he's not. He's just not. Go goddess power. Woo, woo.
Yeah. Well, and as I've quoted before, the clinicians like to say, reality is always best. And he isn't as strong as she is. And she's not suffering cognitive decline or a personality disorder. That's why she'll win.
That's right. Well, you mentioned that you enjoy doing this show. I think we've started to enjoy it a lot more now that it looks like we're going to win. Just saying.
But not only did you and I feel the fear of the threat to democracy that Trump holds for the country. But as clinicians, the idea that someone that disturbed would be back in power really scared the daylights out of me. So I'm not just feeling happy because of Kamala mania, but I'm feeling relieved that there's a possibility. It's not a done deal that we won't have someone that disturbed in the White House again.
It really gives new meaning to that term, the lunatics running the asylum.
Absolutely.
It's literally true in this case.
Well, the sociopaths running the asylum.
Yeah. Well, and the crazy malignant narcissists with dementia too. So, what was the name of that goddess again? What was her name? I forgot now. The goddess. Durga. Okay. Go Durga. There you go. Come on, put up your fist, Harry. Put up your fist. There you go. Go Durga.
Oh,
all right.
See you guys next week. Thanks so much.
See you next week. Bye-bye.